excuse me, too many buttons here for a person my age. So at this point, I would like to have the roll called.
Councilmember Ding,
Present.
Councilmember Lowe. Here. Councilmember Gurney. Vice Mayor Wellander.
Here.
Mayor Farrar-Rivas.
Here.
Thank you.
And I do not have a report on a closed session because it was not a closed session this evening. And at this point, I would like to ask if any members of the council would like to make any changes to the agenda. Seeing none, I would like to, do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
I second.
Thank you. And since all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And now we are going to be moving on to the presentation of the fifth public hearing to select the final district map and introduce an ordinance adding section 20.01.030 to chapter 2.01 of Title II of the Sonoma Municipal Code to change the city's electoral system, not to be confused with our electricity system, from at-large to by-district elections for the city council elections, establishing boundaries and sequencing of elections within the districts. And so now I am going to hand this over to David Guin, our city manager.
Thank you so much. And we are going to bring Paul back, who you have seen at previous presentations. He'll be presenting this item on Zoom. As you mentioned, this is the fifth public hearing, so based on direction tonight, you'll introduce an ordinance, and then we will bring this back on the 21st, if that's the direction City Council gives. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm actually going to turn it over to Liz from Redistricting Partners. So if we'll bring her up, and Liz, you're good to go.
Hello, hi. I'm so sorry, Paul was just lagging behind a little bit, so I'm pulling up the presentation right now. But you are very correct, tonight is the night where we vote on the final map. So we're down to just one map, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up one moment. So sorry about the delay. And I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Okay. So final map, what we're going to go over real quickly is the hearing schedule, the districting principles we used in this process, and we'll talk about draft B3 and then the next steps. So clearly, we had 5 public hearings to go over this. The first 2 were devoted to education and outreach and getting comments from the public. And then March 5th, 19th, and today, these are all post-map meetings in compliance with the Fair Maps Act requirements. These were the criteria we used throughout the process. So the first and most important aspect of this map is it's relatively equal in population size. It's contiguous, so all of the districts are one whole piece and they're touching. They maintain communities of interest, and we've talked about plenty of communities of interest throughout this entire process. The lines are easy to identify, they're understandable, and they keep districts compact. So they're more square in shape and avoiding those funny looking shapes.
Liz, this is David. I just want to jump in real quick. Do you mind making your presentation bigger so the screen, we're seeing your preview slides as well.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah, let me change the screen that I'm using. There we go. I think that should be better. Okay, so this is the map that we have elected to go forward with. So the total deviation is 5.7%. This is well under the 10% maximum that cities are allowed to have. This is based off of Map B, so the B series. Some of the communities of interest that we kept intact include the mobile home communities, renters on the west side, and of course the historic plaza area. So this is the map with the sequencing that the staff recommends. So you have odd districts up in 2026 and even districts up in 2028. So remember, this is going to be staggered in terms of implementation. So you're going to have 3 districts up in 2026. And then you'll still have 2 at-large elected representatives, and then they'll fulfill their full term. And then in 2028, 2 more seats will be up, and that will ensure that the entire map is then districted. So we have, again, a total deviation of 5.7%. And so what happens next? You'll discuss draft map B3. You'll discuss which sequencing you want to go forward with. So again, the proposed sequencing is odd districts are up in 2026, even up in 2028. And then once you vote on a map and the sequencing, you will then we'll take that ordinance and all of the technology behind the maps, and we'll send everything to the county registrar's office. So then it will be implemented in 2026. So that is the rest of the presentation, pretty short. So I will hand it back over to David.
Thank you, Liz. And I think at that point, I'll turn it over to the mayor for discussion on the item.
Yeah, so at this point, we're opening it up for questions from council to staff. Any questions about the current map?
And I would just ask Liz to put map B3 up on the screen for the council and the public during the discussion.
Thank you.
Dorothy?
There we go. Thank you. So at this point, I will open this for public comment. This is opening the public meeting. Could I just see a show of hands of all those people that would like to make a public comment? All right, since we have 4, I'm going to allow for 3 minutes for each person.
Bill Borum, 320 Davila Court here in the city. Compliments to the council for this rigorous work. It was hard to even follow it in the press, but you've certainly done a hard job, and an issue like this is very important. But I do feel that what's happened across the state of California has been a move of intimidation by greedy, at least one greedy law firm, as I read a while back, that have forced the issue. I think the underlying principle is very, very important, that communities of interest be identified. But I think an alternative point of view might be that in very small towns or other districts, like here that we have here in Sonoma, that it's really, we're all in one community here. We're not that big. So I think there are some drawbacks to the situation. I think it's very unfortunate that our small city of 10,000 plus people end up being carved up, again, instigated by a nefarious law firm or two. But I think you have to move along with the direction. But I would have this question. There's 2 questions, and one of them is, are there any of these proposed districts where none of you council members reside? Is there any district where there's nobody on the council currently? Have you looked at your addresses? I'd like to know if all 5 of you are distributed over this map. Maybe there's 2 or 3 in one district. And that goes to my point of it's very unfortunate that public-spirited people such as yourselves are being either forced out of office or competing against each other rather than taking a citywide view of things. So perhaps, I don't know.
We will, after we hear all the comments, we'll be able to come back and answer questions
Yeah.
from the public.
So I'd like to know where people live in the various districts. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Ken Stokes on Brazil Street, Stokes. I don't have I don't have concerns about the map as it's been drawn. I share the prior gentleman's comment about concerns about how we've been forced into this, but I think that ship has sailed, so I'm not going to counter that argument. I just have one strange question, and that is the sequencing, the numbering actually of the districts. They kind of jet back and forth across town, and there's no logic to them. I would have thought they'd gone circular up and down, but they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It just doesn't seem to have any logic in my mind. Also, with the way it is numbered, if you went odd versus even, you're going to have the whole east side up at one time and then the west side up at one time. If you had a rotational, clockwise or otherwise, you'd be able to avoid that problem. So it's just a sequencing issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other comments? Oh, I thought there was 4 hands. I must be seeing double tonight. Yes, remind myself not to take shots of alcohol before the meeting. Not that I do, just a little joke there. So at this point, we will close the public hearing, and I will bring it back to the council for discussion and further input.
If I could just remind the council, so the first thing we should be doing is determining which map and confirming that this is the map that the city wants to go ahead with. And once you've got consensus on that, then a discussion about sequencing is in order.
Great. So first, let's break it up. Thank you very much for that reminder. Let's talk about the map in general, looking at it as if there's no numbers on it. Just the map. So any discussion between council members, comments about the map in general? Councilmember Gurney.
Well, actually, nothing to add other than the fact that this represents what we discussed last meeting, and it looks fine to me.
All right, so seeing no further discussion on the map itself, and we will vote on the whole thing as a package. But at this point, let's move on to the discussion of the sequencing. And would you, City Manager Guin, like to comment on the sequencing and whatever we can reveal about where we live or don't live and who's in, if there's any of these districts that would not have anybody that's represented on the council?
Sure, happy to. This proposed numbering scheme is a starting point for the council's discussion tonight. The intent of this numbering scheme, as mentioned, isn't a circle, but what it tried to do was accomplish 2 things. One, address the districts that currently have council members residing in them that are up for election in 2026 to make sure that those districts were on the odd, in the odd group. And then even districts are those that are up in 2028. There is one district that does not have a current sitting council member, so that would be in 2026. And that would be currently open to whoever's in that district during that election. This is obviously can be changed in terms of modified if the council is interested. The way the ordinance is currently written is that it is even and odd is the way that it's set up, and so this map reflects how the ordinance is written to support that.
And is it, I think we can state which district it is that does not have anybody presiding there. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I think we could do that. So it's District 1 would not have currently anybody residing that's on the council. I'm sorry.
No, it's the red one.
Orange.
Orange is that's the easier way to do it. It's hard to do
Orange
numbers.
one, yeah.
Thank you.
And so if you are good at subtraction, then you can recognize that there is one district where there are 2 council members, and that is District 3. So, the red district, interesting. I thought, yeah, we're the red district of the odd group. At this point, any discussion from the council in regards to the district? Yes, Councilwoman Lowe.
I'm fine with this numbering, with regard to the fact that it looks like, the gentleman's comment regarding east and west. The way the map is done, there's several districts that sort of are east and west. The orange district has a lot of the west side of Sonoma in it, and so does that sort of, I don't know what color that is, brownish, grayish. I'm not very good with colors, I will tell you that. And it's number 5. But that's also sort of a west, if you consider Broadway sort of as the demarcation. So I don't really have, I thought that at first as well. I'm glad it was brought up, and I looked at this, but I don't think it's that way. I think this is going to be helpful to the people who are voting, because they'll remember it's sort of in a group. I think that's helpful for voters, because they don't get confused, like, why is it this one and this one? It's like, it's a little bit clustered together. So I think this makes a lot of sense, and sort of acknowledges what is, and doesn't end up with someone who's currently on the council having one representative and having 2 representatives in one district for a period of 2 years, and then another district with nobody, so that we don't want that. And so I think this addresses that. So I'm comfortable with it.
Any other comments from the council? Yes, Councilmember Ding.
Yeah, and also I, very much appreciate it for that deviation. It's kind of small, just only in 5.8. Yeah, that is pretty good. Yeah.
Thank you. So at this point, it seems like the council, as I'm seeing no other questions or comments, is in agreement. And so I'm asking you for a motion to both accept the map, and second, to accept the numbering on the map. Is that correct, Mr.
I
Goodman?
move approval of the map B3 and the numbering that is marked on it,
We need to also introduce the ordinance.
and introduce the ordinance. I knew there was a third part. Thank you so much. To introduce the ordinance, accept map B3, and with the current numbering as exhibited.
Do I have a second?
I second.
And let's take a roll call for this. Yes,
Nay, nay.
yes,
I-
Councilmember Gurney.
With regards to the, let me find the resolution. Okay. With regards to the resolution, I'm looking at the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th whereas that states that the city council nevertheless concludes that the public interest would be better served by transitioning to a district-based electoral system, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't agree with that comment. I don't think the community is being better served. I understand why we're doing this, but the resolution is fine, but I would not want that particular phrase in the resolution.
I would, as a maker of the motion, accept the amendment to approve the resolution, striking that particular whereas.
Councilmember Wellander, did you have a comment?
I was going to say thank you, Councilmember Gurney, for picking that up, because I believe that's heartfelt across the boards.
Thank
All right, so,
That doesn't present any legal concerns because the one that really matters is the second to last recital, which provides that this change of the electoral system is being made in furtherance of the California Voting Rights Act. That is a statutory requirement in order for the districting to occur via council-approved ordinance as opposed to an election. So,
great, and so we've got the amendment, friendly amendment accepted by Councilmember Lowe and also Councilmember Ding. Do you accept that as well?
I accept.
Okay, great. Then we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe,
Aye.
Councilmember Gurney,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wellander,
Yes.
Mayor Farrar-Rivas.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Thank you, and thank you, redistricting. I don't know if they're still online, but all of the work that they've done, it's been a very informative process, and in spite of the concerns about issues of being small, it actually, there's a lot of information that we did gain from the process that we went through, so appreciate that. Yes, Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you. I'd like to just make one post-mortem comment, and that's kind of reflective of what we heard from the community, and that is we were strong-armed, and if there's any interest, the best thing to do is to criticize your state politicians in Sacramento. And I recently spoke to one that is now retired, and I asked him why they don't revisit this whole Voting Right Act because of unintended consequences, and he said that the politicians don't have spine to redo it. So I just wanted to share that with you, and feel free to write letters to our politicians.
All right. There we go. We will move, now we will move on, which is kind of my attitude. We're there, let's move on. And now let's try to make the best possible that we can and find great people to run in that district where we currently don't have anybody on the council. So moving on, we are now going to open the microphone, that's what that thing is, again, in regards to public comments, people that want to make comments for items that are not on the agenda. We will take 10, up to 10 comments at this point, and if we have more than 10, we will ask whoever wants to make that comment to wait till the end of the meeting. So once again at this time, I'm going to ask to see how many people in the audience would like to make a public comment about something that is not on the agenda? All right, so we have 5. So we're going to go to our 2 minutes. We're going to go to our 2 minute because I think we could end up with some other public comments as well too. Please go ahead and approach. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Janet Boyle. I live on Brazil Street, and I'm here to discuss my concerns about the potential change in land use definition for the 22-acre property currently referred to as the Sebastiani. Tonight, I will focus solely on the safety concerns for me and my fellow Sonoma residents. As we all know, there was a recent change in the fire hazard designation for all the surrounding properties around Sebastiani, including my home. The conclusion was that all adjacent properties are now considered a very high fire risk. And that begs the question, what impact would significant development on the Sebastiani property have on the surrounding neighbors? As a reminder, a traffic study was conducted to review the impact on the Sonoma Development Center project, and that study showed that it could take an extra 4.5 hours for residents to evacuate in the case of an emergency. And I was here for the fires over the last 10 plus years, and we didn't really have 4.5 extra hours to get to safety. And it's been pointed out that even if new development was built with sufficient fire safety precautions, that wouldn't affect the safety of the surrounding neighbors. Our homes and lives would still be put at higher risk due to the increased congestion in that area. The safety issue alone has me very concerned about what is being proposed. Therefore, I ask that we do not change the land use definition for all 4 parcels of the Sebastiani property. I suggest, somebody commented in December that we should come forth with our own proposal. So I suggest we leave 2 parcels currently designated as agricultural as is, then take the other 2 parcels that are wine production and turn them into a public park. I know it's not my land, but has anybody asked Bill Foley if he would donate some of his land for a public park? The reason why I've asked this is I understand that he did something similar in Healdsburg. His company donated, at his request, $7 million to the city of Healdsburg to build something like a farmer's market and a community center. And they named it the Bill Foley Pavilion. And that was recent. maybe he would do the same thing for Sonoma. Has the council talked to him, he and his family? I'm an optimist who believes that Bill Foley may want to do something good for his community. We should ask him. I thank you for your time and service.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. Very concise.
Steve McCrosty, 4th Street East. I hope I can be as concise. Want to make 3 additional points or some concurrent points about the Sebastiani matter. The recently published CAL FIRE hazard map for Sonoma Valley, much of the city from the hills in the northern boundary to Napa Street is classified red or very high hazard severity zone, meaning that in the event of a fire, the entire district would require evacuation. According to state zoning and planning law, the new general plan needs to address wildfire risk and urban wildland interface. Certainly that requirement will impact how these parcels can be redefined for land use and ultimate development. Number 2, what's the precise definition of permitted uses in Sonoma mixed use? We're still waiting to hear a precise definition of what that darn thing means. The description that we have heard has evolved from something I read on the 2024 of October, the city website presentation at that time, that evolved eventually to what we heard at the workshop on January 30th, 2025, regarding various permitted uses. But the thing that alarmed us that we saw was the included residential density of 7 to 25 units per acre. At the latter density of 25 units per acre, the homes would obviously be overwhelmed of, the present home densities would be overwhelmed and greatly altered. The vision of the Sonoma mixed use has changed over time, and that final language has yet to be revealed. I remind you that the vision statement of the current general plan prepared in 2006 states that development respects the availability of natural resources, enhances the scale and character and natural setting of the community's history, and its cultural center are enhanced through careful preservation of historic features, and open space and agricultural lands are protected both in and around the city. And I understand that change is necessary, and doing
Thank you, Mr.
nothing
McCroskey. I'll let you finish
is
your
not an
sentence.
option. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, still Ken Stokes, still living on Brazil Street. 2 questions for the council, and it would apply to the planning commission as well. And they are we being heard, and when will we know? As a member of the group that is represented here, whose comments I fully embrace, we've been attending and speaking at planning commission and council meetings since December, and also writing emails to the both bodies as well. We've raised a number of serious and legitimate concerns regarding the allowable housing density, the detailed definition of Sonoma mixed use, as Steve just mentioned, the city's true commitment to protecting vineyards and green space, and the impact of any changes on the already highly dangerous fire evacuation status of the neighborhood. We remain hopeful that an acceptable set of general plan changes can be reached, but we have very little confidence that things are moving in the direction which we're suggesting, in part, as again Steve pointed out, things continue to slide and the definitions just haven't been reduced to paper in a way that we've been able to review them. And so it isn't as though we haven't been attempting to be good citizens in playing our part in the process. And I realize this is also a frustrating, it's never a give and take, and I understand the reason for that. But the frustration continues to build because we continue to make the same points, and we don't see that reflected in the various updates in the PowerPoint slides that have been presented along the way. So thank you very much. We'll continue to be here and at the Planning Commission raising those concerns. Thank
Can
you.
I ask you just to repeat one thing? You had said housing density definition of the mixed use place, evacuation. There was one other,
The fire safety?
the fire safety.
I think
Okay.
that was it.
Well, you said evacuation
And
though.
toward that, yeah, it was basically of the egress under fire safety or
Okay.
under fire conditions. On the housing density in particular, I would repoint out a comment I made 2 meetings ago. The new minimum is higher than the current maximum for the surrounding neighborhood. I find that to be an absurd step change. Anyway, for what it's worth, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Bob Flanagan. I live on East Spain, and like some of my neighbors here, I share the frustration with the lack of tangible incorporation of our concerns in the draft general plan update. If we're going to move forward with a new land use definition, I'd really encourage you to incorporate a few specific protections, specifically for the new Sonoma mixed commercial land use definition. Just as the city's mixed use definition specifies a maximum height of 36 feet, the Sonoma mixed commercial definition needs a ceiling on new development. I would propose that any new building on the site be no taller than any existing building on the property, or at least no higher than the mixed use definition of 36 feet. Second, we should incorporate a clause specifying that any land currently used for grape growing agriculture must remain in that use, and that the percentage of green space on the property cannot be any lower than what it is today. Third, we should incorporate restrictions against material changes to buildings designated as historically significant on the property. Fourth, we should specifically state that the city's restrictions on formula businesses applies to the site. And fifth, we should change the language regarding new retail development to make visitor-serving retail a requirement rather than just one allowable use. In short, whether you take one or all of these proposals, what I'm asking is that you apply some of the same protections that you apply to development on the plaza and apply them to the Sebastiani site. Doing so would still provide room for development, but would set up guardrails that would guide development proposals to be consistent with our community vision statement and preserve the community character of the East Side. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Alice May. I live at 450 Level Valley Road, right across from the Sebastiani property. I'm obviously here to talk on that as well. I completely oppose the idea of changing the agricultural zoning to anything other than agricultural. I have lived at that house for 21 years, but before that I grew up in Los Gatos. If any of you have been to Los Gatos, it was once the agricultural capital of California and the country. And now there are no longer any apricot orchards in Los Gatos anywhere. It is completely congested, and all of the value of tourism in that town is gone. No one goes to Los Gatos just to visit Los Gatos because it was once beautiful. It's now just commercial and just so congested and ugly, frankly. The people that live there don't enjoy that community anymore. I'd hate to see that happen to Sonoma. I live on that street. I garden on that street. I see how many people come by that walk that path, walk that route every single day, and most of them are tourists. So if the concern is getting the tourist dollar, I think that we'll be shooting ourselves in the foot if we deplete the one thing that we have enough of right now, which is green space. That's valuable. There's such a luxury to having open space, and if we let this go, we don't get it back. And so I really want to encourage you to think about that when you're considering that zoning of those agricultural acres. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So, would anybody else like to make a public comment for anything that's not on the agenda, just as a reminder? Great. So I will close the public comment period.
Through the mayor,
Yes.
possibly.
Yes.
Would it be possible to put in a question to the city manager regarding what we just heard?
I think we could. The other thing we could do, I was thinking, is next step is go to the city manager and arrange where the appropriate discussion should happen within either the commissions or in front of city council. So I think that would be the appropriate next step.
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome. All right, now we're going to be moving on to, yes, we're getting there. Meeting dedications. Is there anybody on the council would like to make a dedication this evening? No. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the council members' reports and comments. Do we have any comments from meetings, activities of our council members?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yes, I think Councilmember Dave is ready for us.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. I had two meetings I would like to share. The first one is the last month, 20th. I was attending Zero Waste Sonoma. And we review and 2025 to 2026 and final on the budget. And finally, and we got it approved. And also we got a review and executive directors and performance during the past 5 years because her contract was expired already. So we continue and this kind of contract for another 5 years with some adjustment based on her performance. And also, and here I would like to share 2 important dates and serving our community. First one is April the 4th, April the 5th, and April the 6th. That is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the county arranged an e-waste recycle event in our community center. Yeah, that is 3 days. That is wonderful. Take this opportunity and check your home and in the printers and the older computers, and then you can send over there. That is free. And also Saturday, that is April the 5th, we will have matrix recycle date. That is not a very common. So take this opportunity. And before you make any action, and go to the website, Zero Waste to Sonoma, and check it in the detail. And they have some of the requirements. For example, it should not be very dirty and not wet. And also, I would like to share another information with Zero Waste Sonoma. That is in May 1st, in the county, when set up the Zero Waste Symposium and in Roundabout Park, in the Sonoma Village and in the center. And that is free for our board member and also in the city council. That is a courtesy in the tickets. So I encourage. That is a whole day event. A lot of the educational and informative and information will be available. Another information I would like to share, that is May 17th. Also, as in the community center, we will have the repair fair. If you have the small appliance, bring over there. And although we cannot guarantee, because they are not professional, but they cannot guarantee. And check it and what kind of for example, and vacuum and also some and a rice cooker, maybe very few people have. Yeah, send it over, and I very much appreciated this kind of events, and because I'm the representative for the city, I always encourage them. Although we are small, far away from the highway in the 101, never forget these kind of events come to our in the valley, Sonoma. Yeah. Another meeting is, remember that is May 17th, from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Another meeting that is the last Thursday, I went to Burbank, Southern California, to attend a League of Cal Cities Policy Committee and for the revenue and the taxation. And this is my favorite. And we review and governors and 2025 to 2026 the budget, because during the past 3 years, our state budget just like a roller coaster. The 2022, 2023, that is $90 billion surplus. And the next year we got $31 billion deficit, and this year we got the $47 billion deficit. Fortunately, according to the recent governor's office's budget, and for the next cycle in 2025 to 2026, we can get a modest and surplus a little bit, $323 million and surplus. So that is very good. Although the LA office, that is a legislative analysis office, they don't agree with this number. It's too rosy. But but I think the state starting then a fix. I hope that we can use this kind of momentum, continue improve our the state and financials. That is my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Ding. Very good. Do we have other reports? Councilmember Wellander.
Yes, I am going to repeat what I did several weeks ago, and that is I did attend a board meeting for the Sonoma County Homeless Coalition, and it was a Zoom meeting for 3 hours with 29 attendees. And I think the takeaway on it is twofold. One is we are struggling with the realities of a decrease in funding from what was about 7.8 million last year to about 6.1 million this year. Along with that came a lot of angst and concerns from the various providers on how they're going to manage and going forward. So that was the essence of the meeting, and time will tell if this indeed becomes a reality.
Councilwoman Lowe.
Thank you. Joining the mayor and the vice mayor, we attended the pinning ceremony for the Sonoma Valley Fire District. That's always an incredible event. I was there 2 years ago. There were 350 people there. I mean, they had to bring in extra chairs. And it's just so wonderful to see volunteer firefighters become professional firefighters, and firefighters becoming captains and so forth, and serving our community and having their family there and giving their family their pins, and it's just an amazing event, and just makes you realize how lucky we are that we have so many people that are willing to show up when you call 911, run into that burning building and save you from any kind of crash or anything. I mean, that's what they do. I mean, it's just the most risky type of profession, and being with people in the most dangerous situations, and to see a whole room full of people that have devoted their life to doing that, and their families, it's just overwhelming, and I'm so honored to have been there. On the heels of that, today I attended the LAFCO meeting, local area district formation. I always forget what the acronym is. It's just become a word, LAFCO. And we finalized the consolidation of the Sonoma Valley Fire District with Kenwood. There's always a protest proceeding that takes place where people can say they don't want that to happen. If it falls to above a certain percentage, there actually has to be an actual election. It did not fall within that percentage, and so it is finalized. And the people in Kenwood will be receiving the emergency ambulance system that now we have here in Sonoma in the city, will now also serve Kenwood. So it's an incredible amount of extra support for that community. Very honored to have been able to vote on that. And then also in regard to fire, we looked at the annexation of a property into the water district. The fire district is building a new firehouse on Arnold Drive. And that is in the sphere of influence of the water district, but is not currently in the water district. And so we have asked the executive officer to do a study and go forward as soon as possible to see if we can get them, to get that property in the from the firehouse in the district, so it can quickly be serviceable. It will replace the current firehouse that is in El Verano, which is just not up to current standards. Let's put it that way. And so this will be wonderful in a location. We heard a lot of people concerned about fire this evening. To have a up to firehouse on Arnold Drive that can get down to Temelec and up to Sobra Vista along Arnold Drive is really wonderful. So was very happy to be able to do that, and we elected a vice chair of LAFCO. Susan Harvey from the city of Cotati will now be serving as our vice chair, and that's what I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gurney. Okay, great, thank you. And I have just a few very quick items so to report. So on March 20th, I attended along with Councilmember Wellander and Councilwoman Lowe the celebration of our 2025 Alcaldesa and the transfer of the silver cane from Wayne Shackey to Kathy Witkowicki. And so she launched both the Sonoma's Speakers Series and was the founder of the Sonoma Mentoring Alliance. So it's very exciting to have her as our alcaldesa. And then on 3/26, I did a presentation to the Lunch Rotary. And just a little piece of information, I'm not sure how all the Rotaries work together, but I know that they reported that their St. Patrick's Day celebration raised over $100,000. So that was good news. That was fun to see them celebrate that. Yes, and I will just echo all of the good statements that our Councilwoman Lowe said about the pinning. It was actually it's an emotional experience to go through, and it's great to see. We have 140 people working within our fire district, including administration, firefighters. So it was amazing. All of their family there, of course, too. And there was I will tell one quick story. So there was one young woman that I met when I was doing my knock and talk, when you're running for office. And she's a young Latina woman that was at that time volunteering with the fire department and going to school, getting to get her EMT, and she was pinned that night. So that was like, it's just fun to have that, personal connection to folks there. And then last but not least, yesterday, I attended the 21st anniversary party and was on the radio with KSVY. So they're now old enough to drink. And so I wasn't able to get back for their celebration at 5 p.m. But anyway, it was great to see everybody there. It was very exciting. And they span, I don't know if people realize this, but they we're just in the city of Sonoma, and now you can get them clearly all through the valley, but also you can stream them globally. So anytime you travel, you can look, you can tune into KSVY. I think that's like exciting. Very exciting. I will do that for sure. All right. So moving on, we're going to move on now to. Oh yes, this is the most exciting part of the evening. So we're going to. I'm going to ask City Manager Guin if he has a report for us.
Thank you so much. And I do want to acknowledge KSVY and obviously the role they play in emergency notifications as well. So it's great that there's different ways to access them, and their signal does go quite a ways. And also thank you to Councilmember Ding for highlighting the number of events that are coming up for e-waste and mattress. I think it's wonderful that those events are here locally, and so we're going to keep pushing those and making sure we have more of those for the community. So thank you for bringing those up. I do want to acknowledge as well, we have our Parks and Rec Director position. We talked about that a few meetings ago. That we'll be posting that for recruitment starting next week. And so you'll see that out next week. And if you're interested in more information, you can contact our office and we'll be sure to get the information, but it'll be on our website and open for about a month. As a reminder, the Art Walk is tomorrow night from 5 to 7:30, so please come out to that. You may have noticed in the plaza at the amphitheater some new wood on the benches. Again, that was from a generous donation from the Summer Raceway. There was an article in the paper about that. But it's wonderful wood. We're working our way through weather dependent, getting the benches replaced in the amphitheater first, and then the Public Works crews who are handling all this wood in the yard, sealing it, staining it, and getting that installed. They'll move on to the tables and benches throughout the plaza, so it'll look beautiful kind of as the months go Just as you may have noticed, the council is very bare tonight. No artwork on the walls, and I think it's just as a reminder that this is what it looked like before, and to appreciate all the art we do have on our walls, and we do have it. We just removed the art. I mean, we will be having a new exhibit installed later this month, and this will be the first one that we're doing in partnership with the community center, moving forward with them working with us and putting that art up in the chamber. And then finally, just as a reminder, our next city council meeting is April 21st. It's a Monday, so it's a little different than normal this month. So it'll be Monday, April 21st. Just for people, if you're planning on being at the next city council meeting, please take note of that. And the best way to keep on top of that and all the other things I said, other news, is to sign up for our city newsletter. Again, we have a pretty extensive newsletter that goes out about every other week and has a lot of great information in there. You go to our website, you can sign up for that, and you can get that delivered to your email box with this plus more. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. And now, City Attorney Ruderman, do you have any updates or comments for us this evening?
I do have one comment. I just wanted to let the council know that on March 21st, I did attend the Cal City's Legal Advocacy Committee meeting, where we discussed potentially having Cal City support a number of amicus briefs. There was an interesting case out of Tiburon, a CEQA matter related to their housing element approval, which we discussed. There's also a very important case that came out of the Court of Appeal regarding CalPERS and contracting for retired annuitant services. It's a Sandu versus CalPERS case. It arose out of some employment that a individual from RGS, Regional Governmental Services, was providing. So we did discuss that matter. That's a pretty important one. And then a couple other ones. There's I believe the city of Santa Barbara imposes a tax on video streaming services. And so there's a challenge to that from Disney Plus related to their ability to tax those services. So that was something that we discussed. And finally, there's a prevailing wage matter out of Long Beach that I also believe Cal Cities may be taking a position on as well. So that's my report.
Good to know Mickey Mouse is busy. Here we go.
Doesn't want to pay his taxes.
So moving on, now we're going to have, this is really the most exciting part of the evening. We have 3 presentations this evening, and no, we have 2. I have another presentation tomorrow night, but they have 2 this evening. And so I am going to start with a proclamation that we are doing in honor of the Sonoma Sister Cities on the occasion of their 65th anniversary in the city of Sonoma. And so whereas on December 24th marked the 65th anniversary of Sonoma's commitment to fostering international goodwill through its Sister Cities program, which continues to enrich our community and strengthen global partnerships. And whereas the Sonoma Sister City Association and the City of Sonoma share a valued partnership dedicated to fostering cultural exchange, education, and mutual understanding. And whereas these long-standing relationships have been strengthened through personal connections formed over decades of meaningful visits and shared experiences. And whereas the spirit of personal diplomacy inherent in the Sister Cities mission encourages collaboration, learning, and global friendship, transcending challenges and reinforcing the bonds between our communities. And the City of Sonoma deeply appreciates the generosity and engagement of its citizens in supporting cultural, humanitarian, and educational initiatives that enhance these international relationships. So I now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Patricia Farrar-Rivas, Mayor of the City of Sonoma, do hereby proclaim this second day of April 2025 as the day to celebrate the enduring success of the Sister Cities program. And I would like to ask Stephanie Fine and Robert Dembler to come up. Oh, yes, I need to say, yes. I will be right there.
Thank you.
Did you want to say a few words, either one of you?
Thank you so very much for this honor. Robert and I are delighted to acknowledge the wonderful support that we have received from each of the people. I was sitting here recognizing that since I joined Sister Cities, every single one of you have served as mayor and cooperated with our program. And I thank in particular our city manager. Since David has come on board, the presence of sister cities has become very prominent within the city, and I thank you so much for that. We look forward to a continued relationship with you, Mayor, Madam Mayor, and we look forward to our relationship next year with our Vice Mayor. Thank you so very much.
Stephanie
Stay
said it
there, I'll
all.
be right out there.
Stephanie said it all.
Oh.
Thank you very much, yeah.
Beautiful. I'm going to step on either side. So we have the council present to you.
Mayor, can I say just only in the 2 sentences, just saying the congratulations, because I have to see all of you, my colleagues and neighbors. You are wonderful, and the Sonoma is the city in America, and very very few, just like us, only the 11,000 or 50,000. And population, but we do have 7 sister cities. In the sister city international, Washington, D.C. and the Sonoma, just number 1 or number 2. We are very proud. And also, and the people love the Sonoma. And first of all, the natural beauty and the rich history, but international relationship also is an invisible assets. Yeah, you pay a lot of attention, generation by generation. So much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so important, our relationships with our sister city, no matter what is going on geopolitically. It makes a very big difference to have the people-to-people connection. It's been a very successful program since it's initiated 65 years ago. All right, thank you so much. And now, we're going to move on to we're a proclamation where we are designating April 5th through the 11th, 2025, as Week of the Young Children in the City of Sonoma. So, whereas the Child Care Planning Council of Sonoma County and other local organizations, in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the Week of the Young Child, April 5th through the 11th, 2025, and that whereas these organizations are working to improve early care and education opportunities that provide a foundation of learning for all children in Sonoma, California. And first years of child's life are a period of the most rapid brain development and lay the foundation for all future learning. Participation in high-quality early childhood education saves taxpayers' dollars, makes working families more economically secure, and prepares children to succeed in school, earning higher wages, and live healthier lives. Many early childhood educators earn poverty-level wages and do not have basic workplace benefits, such as health insurance and paid sick leave. 45% of family child care providers and 50% of child care center teachers and assistants in Sonoma County used at least one form of public support, most often Medi-Cal. And young children need skilled education, competent, consistent, and compensated early childhood educators. Whereas working families need sufficient, accessible, and affordable high-quality child care spaces beginning at birth to be available in the community, and whereas early childhood educators need the ability to earn a professional wage that is commensurate with the required education and skills they bring to the complex and valuable work they do. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the City of Sonoma, California does hereby proclaim April 5th through 11th as the week of the Week of the Young Child, and commit to investments that stabilize, sustain, and support child care and early learning, so this essential workforce can continue to support children, families, and our economy. So thank you very much, and we have Diana Avila and here tonight. So, yeah, would you like to say a few words for the council?
I just want to thank everybody for this opportunity. It's really important to recognize early learning and care as an important factor to our community and to ensure that it is not stripped within the coming years. I also would like to stress that our efforts to outreach from Sonoma County Office of Education over to these rural areas like Sonoma is increased. And so that is my goal within my time. So thank you.
I'll be right there. Thank you. All right, now we are moving on to the consent calendar. Oh, that's right. Excuse me. I know we had 3 presentations. I don't know why I always forget you, Ron. Here we go. Okay, now Vice Mayor Wellander will provide a presentation for us this evening. Oh, it's lovely too.
Clarity through the mayor. Do I have 2 minutes or 3? I'm very pleased to present to my fellow council members a county project that has begun officially as of last night with a community meeting. You may recall that we have a fairly significant traffic element going in south of town at the intersection of 121 and 116, and it's a roundabout that is probably about 2/3, if not 3/4, complete in the construction. I believe it's about 20 years ago, back in the days of Valerie Brown, a former board of supervisor, the idea of a roundabout was kind of birthed, and there was a series of challenges between the county and the state, and then there was funding issues, and then there was COVID, and then there was a need to get the construction documents together, and lo and behold, the dream of many, the roundabout is actually taking place. It was identified some years ago that this may be a perfect stage for including a piece of artwork. And the aspiration is to create a piece of artwork that would be rather iconic as a welcome symbol to the southern gateway into Sonoma Valley. I saddened several people that attended last night when they expected to be done in about 3 months, and I advised them it's going to probably be about a 2-year project. And it's a 6-step process with Caltrans, and unfortunately we can only address number 1, which is pretty benign, before we have to select an actual artist. And the process is going to be quite formal, and it's going to take probably somewhere around 6 to 8 months. Ultimately, I will backtrack. This is a project too that is not covered in state funding at this point, and so it is entering into as a private funded project. There hasn't been a specific budget set, but certainly when we go out to invite artists to submit proposals, that budget will be identified. And I would like to welcome anybody in the audience, plus up at the dais, if you have any visions, aspirations, feelings, thoughts on what you would like to see. I heard a very wide variety of ideas last night. So anyway, in a nutshell, that's it. Feel free to ask any questions afterwards or anytime you see me. So thank you.
We have a question from Councilmember Gurney.
Ron, who's the lead person that one would want to contact on this?
The lead person that the county has is the Sonoma County Transportation Authority, a gentleman by the name of James Cameron. And he is the one that has established apparently a very good working relationship with Caltrans. And then I drew the short straw and will be actively involved in managing aspects of the project. And so some say that I'll be walking around with a target on my back, so I'm just giving everybody a heads up to the target.
I should be an iconic target, though.
Right now, it's just a wide target.
Okay. Yes, Councilwoman Lowe.
First of all, I want to thank the Vice Mayor for taking this on. I know how important this is to you, that that there's art, immersed into our valley, and I agree with that. Obviously, when I was the mayor, I said it was the year of the art, and people really respond to it. So I imagine you'll get a lot of comments, and I want to thank. I sit on the Sonoma County Transportation Authority and was there for the groundbreaking, and also I use that intersection a lot because I end up going to the city and Marin to visit my kids, and it works very well. And it's before that there was like a line of cars all the way. Well, I don't need to tell you. You all been in it. So the only comment that I've received from the public is that people like myself, who are smaller in stature, have a hard time seeing over the roundabout that's at by Hannah Boy Center, and they just, visibility is a main thing. So I just want to put that out there, that whatever we choose, make sure that there's visibility, because after all, we're putting that there to improve safety, and that is the number one reason it's there. And if we can also make it beautiful, then it's a win-win.
If I could take my last 30 seconds. Couple items. Interestingly, this is the first roundabout in all of Sonoma County. And at least I believe that's what James Cameron told me today. And last night there was great concern about, I take that back. So anyway, scratch that idea. But there were a lot of comments about safety and visibility. Caltrans is very explicit with what we can and cannot do. Also, the Hannah roundabout was a county project and not under the jurisdiction of Caltrans. Trust me, they have quite a litany of do's and don'ts. And interestingly enough, though, this particular roundabout is very large. And even if you drive now with the barricades and the various pieces of equipment, there are different sightlines now, even with the temporary artfully embedded boulders in concrete right now. So I will definitely keep in mind the visibility issue.
Yeah, you can easily see, I mean, the main thing is you have to see what's coming to your left, right? And make sure things are not stopped on your right. And I find the sight lines to be, the most tricky one is coming back into the valley a little bit, but I think something could be there. You don't have to see like over the thing, because it's pretty, the sight lines are pretty good there. But I agree, but I want to say that because I've received a lot of comments on that.
Given my age, let me just correct myself. The 121-116 roundabout will be the first roundabout on a Sonoma County highway.
Very good. Appreciate the correction. And I would suggest people going to visit our botanical gardens in the valley, because they have this beautiful art project right now that of these 20 to 30 foot high birds that are made of canes and that are actually, you can see through. I mean, not through the canes, but through the space between the canes. But it's, just examples of art that is beautiful and open and airy. So there's many opportunities here. All right, so moving on. Oh, did you want to make a
yes.
comment about the roundabout?
Yeah, you mentioned about that is privately funded. If roughly any in the budget or something like that.
We haven't established a budget yet, and yes, it will be privately funded. We have a very proactive supervisor who fortunately recently worked for a congressman, and she was in Washington, and she just happened to do something with an earmark request. So it may die on the vine, but I think the goal is there may be an opportunity for grants or other sources of funding, but we're entering into it with the expectation that it will be privately funded. The goal is to somehow come up with a budget to create an element that will meet the criteria of being memorable, iconic, something that we'll be all proud of as we enter into the southern gateway. And I don't have a real good grasp on what large public art sells for, but that's something that I have a selection committee that is very diverse, very talented, and experienced that will be advising.
All right, moving on. So now we're going to move to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon in a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the council or staff request specific items to be removed or separate or for a separate action. And before I ask the rest of the council, I will just want to notify everybody that I am on the board of Sonoma Ecology Center, and one of the items on our consent calendar is a contract for this with the Sonoma Ecology Center and the city. And so my vote will only be on all of the other items on the consent calendar, and my vote will be recused from that portion of the consent calendar, and just to make sure that that will be documented in the notes. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I do not receive any financial remuneration from the Sonoma Ecology Center. I serve on the board as a volunteer. So moving on, does anybody else on the council, would anybody else like to pull any of the consent calendar items? Yes.
I wish not to pull it, but I do have a question for staff.
You may go ahead.
This would be on the Ecology Center. I take no exception to the overall body of the report and the item. I would like just some clarity under the financial impact. I have not been able to fully grasp the 11, 12, 14 digit number codes that, so I would like to know that it references Park CIP, it references Quimby funds, and I would just like to know a little bit more about where the money's coming from, and is something being deferred, eliminated, or what the status is of our funds. And this can be something that can be brought back at a later date, but I would like clarity on that.
We can provide that to you. It was budgeted during the budget process, so it's not a new additional expense, but we can get you that detailed breakdown in what the different accounts are.
Thank you, and that is all.
Thank you. I would like to hear a motion to accept the consent.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Yeah, public comment?
Public comment. Thank you. On the consent calendar. Great. No, not great. I mean, it's wonderful to have public comment. Moving forward. Take a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe,
Aye.
Councilmember Gurney,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wellander,
Yes.
Mayor Farrar-Rivas.
Yes, with the exception of 8.2.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
8.3. Is it 8.3?
Yep, it's noted that the mayor has abstained from 8.3, the SEC contract.
That's fine.
Okay, item 9.1.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. So item 9.1 is a resolution approving myself, the city manager, to execute a joint powers agreement with the State of California Department of Parks and Recreation and I'm going to talk a little bit about what this JPA is and what the intent of this project is. We're really excited about this project, and this is something that we've been working with the state for some time on this idea. And I do want to acknowledge the fact that we do have the Deputy District Superintendent Matthew Allen from California State Parks in the audience tonight, and I'm going to provide him an opportunity to say a few words here when I'm done. And we also have Tim Zahner from our Sonoma Visitor Bureau who's involved in this project as well. And so again, as I mentioned, this is an exciting project for us to look at this asset that we have in our community, which is the Toscano Hotel, which is on the California State Parks property just north of the plaza. It currently, as you may have seen, it has some cages at the doors. You can look inside and see what a replica of that room looked like, the hotel lobby looked like. And there's some pictures here on the screen of what it currently looks like. We have talked to the state, and there's been some interest from the state back all the way back in 2013. The state did a report to look at this site and looking at potential adaptive reuse opportunities for the site. And use of this space was one of those identified to activate, and partly to make sure that the public has an opportunity to see it, utilize it. It doesn't go into disrepair because it's being underutilized. And to really bring the public into this space to learn more about the history and what the California State Parks has to offer on this site. In addition, at the same time, we were running out of office space as we are looking at creating a Parks and Rec department and other things that we're doing within the city. And one of the city buildings currently is being subleased to the Sonoma Visitors Bureau. That's the Carnegie building on the plaza. And so what we talked about was potentially working with the state, identifying that underutilized space, moving the Visitors Bureau over into that space to activate it, and then freeing up space at the Carnegie building to utilize for staffing for the Parks Department, the Water Department, Finance Department, and the cemeteries operations. So we had some really good discussions over the years between the three parties. We came up with a joint powers agreement between the city and the state. And the way that we're proposing this is that the city would enter into that JPA with the state. We would then, once that's approved by the state, we would then turn around and sublease that first floor to the Sonoma Visitors Bureau, just like we do at Carnegie Hall, the Carnegie building. So that the goal of that is to move forward if the council supports this idea and wants us to move forward, we would move forward fairly quickly once the state gives the okay. It needs to still move through the state process. And then we will our crews will go through and do some minor repairs, and the minor repairs would include removal of the cages and some threshold improvements for ADA access. And then we'd be able to activate the space. We have met with the state parks, I don't know if it's a historian or I'm not sure the right title, the historian, about the property, about what we can and shouldn't do to preserve the space. And so nothing will be put on the walls at this point. We'll have freestanding furniture, freestanding monitors, and anything that we want to do so that we preserve the space. And then we'll preserve the nice big bar in there as well for potentially as well. It's a beautiful space. So that will happen, and then the way the APA works and the details in the packet is that the state is not charging the city for use of this space because it is an activation, which is a really great partnership that we're providing. And then we will be responsible for the upkeep, cleaning, and utilities, and any other things that we need for use of that space. So we're excited about that. Again, I can't say enough about the cooperation from them working with the state on this. It's been a wonderful experience. And the person that I worked most closely with is Matthew Allen, who again is here, and I would love to invite you up, Matthew, if you have a minute, and fill in some areas I might have missed, and any corrections you want to make to anything I've said. But thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Matthew Allen, excuse me, the Deputy District Superintendent for Bay Area District State Parks, and we are excited, as David is over here, about joining in a partnership with the city. We feel that we are a member of the community and a part of the city, and this is a great way for us to leverage each other's strengths and to provide a better public service to the visitors and the community members that come to Sonoma. I'd like to just share a little anecdote and a perspective on from state parks on this agreement. So as David mentioned, we've been working closely in discussions trying to develop something that might work. And during those discussions, we've met several times, actually inside the Toscano itself. And while we're in there, every single time, didn't matter what day it was, what time of day it was, the public saw people in there, and they walked up. And as you all know, for many years, they can look through the cage, and it's very passive or static kind of thing. but they saw people in there and they wanted to know how they could come in and how they can learn about the history and what was going on in there. So what we did is we opened the gates and we let them come in. We went about our discussions and we let them wander around inside the building, look at the art, look at all the history, sort of take all that in. And it was hard to get people to leave. People kept coming. But it really speaks volumes to the space, the historical significance of that space, and the real need to activate that space and let people come in and actually get transported back in time and be a part of and feel that history. And then working with the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau, being in that space, allowing us to have that open on a more regular basis. People can come in and get that history, but they also get to learn about the local businesses and all of the other great destinations that there is in the local community. So we appreciate your consideration of helping to move this forward. And any questions, I'm available.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. And I think I'll just add on to that. I think one of the things that Matthew touched on is that we've talked with the Visitors Bureau about is making sure that the volunteers that are working there at a more regular schedule and having that open more often to be trained and have information from the state so that they could be ambassadors for the site as well. So there's mutual support there so that the crews, and I don't know, since Tim is here, I would give you an opportunity if you want to say a word to say about that, but you don't have to. I just wanted to
Come on up.
few words about, but I think that partnership is really important, and the agreement that the Visitor Bureau has with the state to provide that service to our community.
Thank you, and you're wise to keep me off the microphone. Visitors Bureau is very excited to work with the city and work with California State Parks, because I think this will be a fantastic way to activate that part of the plaza, keep people here, and tell them more about Sonoma. So I will be brief. That's all I want to say, but I really look forward to this. I've got two of my staff here, and they're very excited about starting this. And one is actually a docent for the state parks, so knows a lot about it.
What will the bar hours be?
Right. Well, we'll wait until the lawyer's out of the room, and then we'll talk. So, absolutely. Thank you.
And I have one quick question. What are we thinking? What is the timeline on this when it's actually we're gonna be able to walk in and?
So actually, quite quickly, we spent a lot of time in the pre-planning before we were able to bring it here, and to make sure that we had all of our ducks in a row. Right now, if the city council gives their approval, then it will take it through our executive staff at the state parks, and we'll be able to work with the city and with the Visitors Bureau on actually working on the few modifications, literally removing the cages off that building. And then the timeline from there is really up to the city and the Visitors Bureau.
I could add, National Travel and Tourism Week is the first full week in May. We're ready to move a bunch of pamphlets in there, depending on how fast we can move this. So just let us know. And our only catch is we'll figure out the internet stuff like that, because when this was built, internet was dial-up. So we have to.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's a little bit older than that. But yeah.
I think it was pre-dial-up.
Carrier pigeons.
All right. Do we have any other questions from the council?
Great project and also very innovative. And thank you, state, to the support. And as you know, in our community, highly valued each and a detail of our history in this way, let more people and understand. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Wellander.
I do have a question, and I'm not sure exactly who I'll direct it to, so I'll direct it to all three. On the agreement on page 12 of 16, there was just something that may not be an issue, but it says the subtenant further agrees to take action to investigate and clean up the release of any hazardous substances. That's a big unknown, and I know that the report said that the cursory review said that there were no hazardous substances, but I'm uncomfortable as the city being held responsible should there be a discovery in a state building that we don't own.
Yeah, we did address that item, and we worked with the state on cleaning that language up. I'll just verifying that.
Yeah, I think you're referring to the sublease.
I'm referring to page 12 of 16, and it refers.
That's the sublease.
It says subtenant.
Yeah, right.
Which
so
would be the Visitors Bureau.
That would be the visitor. So the agreement we have, the JPA addresses that issue.
And what's the
then
resolution?
That's what we're approving tonight is the JPA, and you're giving me direction to work on that sublease agreement to clean that up with the Visitors Bureau. And we're gonna fix that language to be consistent with the JPA and the
Yeah.
agreement we have with the state.
And under the JPA, the state is responsible for the condition of the property for everything that happened prior to our taking occupancy.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good answer. All right, any other questions? Yes, Councilwoman Lowe.
Just a comment. I'm equally excited that the Carnegie Building is going to be repurposed for the recreation and parks and cemeteries and so forth, because I think that just as the Toscano Hotel is very inviting to visitors, I think that will be very, it's like people, when they walk into the City Hall, there's a sign, don't go up here, and you're not really sure, and there's, so that'll be a very inviting space for people who are concerned about those issues. And I think we're opening this whole area up to the community in a much more constructive way than we have it now. And I think it's going to benefit all of the offerings that we have, from the parks to the cemeteries, the recreation, and so forth. So I think the whole plan has really come together beautifully. Thank you very much for bringing it forward.
By the way, you mentioned about the lease. If the lease that it was with a dollar amount, I didn't read in the contract, and how much per year, or $25 for 25 years, or what is the amount?
No, for the agreement is a partnership agreement, and it's a zero cost.
Okay.
It's a mutual beneficial agreement between both parties.
All right. Thank you.
The sublease between the city and the Visitors Bureau has a lease agreement, so that's what that dollar is there, just to have that. That's what we currently do now with the Carnegie Building to enforce that lease.
Thank you for your clarification.
And so, do we have any other questions? Yes, that's where I'm going, dear. So I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Robert Demler, First Street West. I do have a jacket on tonight. I just want to say I can't go without speaking at any meeting, but I want to say I think this is a brilliant idea. It'll be more accessible, friendly, and the best way to preserve a building, as we always say, is to use it. So thank you for all the work on this.
Thank you, Mr. Demler.
Richard Dale, Ecology Center, and we had the honor of having the Toscana Annex for 10 years. And I can tell you the number of people who come up to the door every day with smiles on their faces trying to understand the architecture and the buildings and things there. It's going to be great to have that. And I also just want to acknowledge that the city and the state have not always worked really well together, and this is really fantastic to see this kind of partnership. And we run a state park, and we can tell you what great guys these guys are. But
oh, good. Thank you.
It's really nice to see this happening.
Yes. Yes, we're very intertwined here in Sonoma between the city and our state parks. And there's a lot of great movement going forward. I wonder if our city manager has anything to do with that. So, moving forward, would anybody like to have any comments or discussion on this?
Motion?
Yeah, I'll call for a motion.
Well, I have one.
Yes.
I would like to move that we adopt the proposed resolution approving and authorizing the city manager to execute a joint powers agreement with state parks and authorizing the city manager to execute a sublease with Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau for the use of the Toscano Hotel first floor.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right. Let's go ahead and take a roll call.
Councilmember Dean?
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe?
Aye.
Councilmember Gurney?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wellander?
Yes.
Mayor Farrar-Rivas?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
All right. Moving on to item 9.2. I see what happened here. Thank you. Very good. See, mine is different. I don't know why. Okay. So 9.1. So for those of everybody that, oh, we're losing our audience. So maybe I won't explain as much about this. No, I will go ahead. But so what happens with the mayors and city council members in our county is there's a number of regional boards, there's a number of county boards that members of our council members are elected to by the mayors and the council members. And we have a meeting once a month, and usually we're not electing people all the time, but it generally, when people are retiring, kind of this time of year it happens. We did it once already this year, but early in the year, or when people are kind of retiring off or moving off one of those positions, and certainly when there's new councils that are, are elected, then there can be some movement there too as well, because people may leave and you have new people coming on. So what we're asking tonight is I'm going to present a potential slate of members of our, our council members throughout the county. We're looking at 3 different boards. We're actually looking in each of those boards or committees two seats. And so we're going to be looking at what I'm going to do is just quickly take it one at a time instead of all 3, because we only have 3. It'll be easier. But for the Measure Age Oversight Committee, which is the committee that will oversee Measure Age in regards to the tax associated with fire safety in the county, is we're looking to identify 2 members from the mayor and city council members group. So I recommend that I was suggesting Jeff Okrepke from Opreki, thank you. Okrepke, Jeff Okrepke. Yeah, I finally got that one. So I should give me until next year. I'd be good with this one. So Jeff Okrepke from Santa Rosa and Sandra Lowe from, I don't know, Sonoma. So that is my recommendation. And so I will just open it up to see if anybody has any other recommendation or changes.
2 people, right?
2 people, yes.
Who else? Just only
Evelyn Mitchell of Healdsburg, Nisa Hinton of Sebastopol, and Jill McLewis of Sebastopol. And the reason, of course, I really would appreciate Sandra being part of that. And because Sonoma is not on the corridor, I thought it would be good to have someone that is on the corridor. So having someone from Sonoma and Santa Rosa made sense to me. All right, and it's a big city and a small city, so there's enough, big, small, west.
So I think it's a no-brainer about having a Sonoma rep there, which I think is fully great. My question is, and I don't take exception to what you proposed, except I want to throw out the idea. We're a small town, and several of the other members are coming from small towns. Santa Rosa is not a small town. Santa Rosa has always done a pretty good job of having a pretty effective voice. And so my question is, would there be worthy of any consideration to have 2 members that are actually from smaller communities? I mean, I fully support Sandra, but I'm just simply saying, is there an advantage of having another small town rep? Or, and again, I'm not real clear on how the oversight's going to function, but I certainly love the idea of Sandra fighting for Sonoma Fire District.
And the primary job of this committee is to oversee where the assets go to. So there's less discussion about the what or the how, but just on the accounting, and that the accounting is done appropriately. Yes.
If I might respond through the mayor, I appreciate the question very much. I think there's also, with the work that I've been doing on LAFCO, we've been merging all these fire districts. And so even though Santa Rosa is a big city, you now have a giant fire district called Gold Ridge that potentially goes all the way from Monterey, down basically almost Petaluma, you know, and so forth. So you're looking at the funding is going to different fire districts. Like for us, it doesn't go to the city of Sonoma because we contract. With Santa Rosa, they have their own fire district. So I think what's a nice blend is that you have a small city that contracts with a larger fire district, and you have a city that has their own fire district. And I think having those are sort of the two options that would be covered by the rest of the city. So I think that gives you a fair representation.
Thank you.
Mike, Mayor.
Public comment.
Your mic.
My mic. Oh, I'm going to ask for public comment at the end of all three of them, so that we can move through this as a group. So any other comment in regards to the Measure H oversight? All right, so moving on then, the next one is the North Bay Division LOCC Executive Board, and so that is the board that primarily is focusing on Cal City legislative issues. I'm suggesting that that we actually do bring Stephen Zollman on that because of a representative, once again, that's small city, Sebastopol. And then either Janice or Susan Harvey. When I hear people are just, you know, going on to other committees, then I'm kind of looking at, because I think that either Susan or Janice would both be good people to be part of that. So I'm comfortable with either, but I also kind of think of all the roles that Susan may be playing right now and whether it makes sense to add Janice to this. But so that one input would be great. Yes.
You know, Susan and Janice are the current members,
yep.
And I lean to continue to support them. They do. I serve with them, both of them, on SCTA. They do an incredible job. I mean, Susan was just, as I mentioned earlier, elected to the vice chair of LAFCO. And Ron, you've got someone who could challenge you to stickers on your agendas. I mean, she goes through with fine detail. We had budget discussion today, and I really value both of their experiences. Nothing against Stephen whatsoever, but I have a hard time when someone's serving in a position and doing it well, then for, you know, to say, but, you know, just because I think someone else would be good. So personally, I would like to continue to support the work that they're doing because they're doing a good job.
Yes, Councilmember Ding.
I have the working experience with Susan. Yeah, really, and thoughtful and very in the detail, and always did a detailed work and do a lot of the homework. I admire her, and also Janice, and as existing and a member, I think that she also did a good thing. You know, when I talk with her, so I support existing two of them, Susan and Janice.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's, I guess one other reason with Stephen Zollman, I'm on the Sonoma Clean Power Board with him, and I find him actually to be quite, you know, really pay a lot of attention. And I think especially in regards to issues around equity, he's very strong there. He really keeps his eye out for the community. Saying nothing against Susan and Janice, I just know that Sebastopol doesn't get on a lot of these. Often it does go to the other members. So it's kind of how do we give a chance for them to get on one of these, you know, as well. So,
I know both Susan and Stephen, and I've observed them either at the conferences and had interactions with them both. But I can't speak to their performance as Councilwoman Lowe has spoken because I haven't worked with them in such a capacity. And so at this point, and not knowing what their overall workload is, and I'm assuming that if the workload was too much, they wouldn't have applied. So I will just simply be deferring to my fellow council members for more input. I don't feel strong.
So I'll try one more recommendation of going with Susan and going with Stephen.
Again, I you know, maybe because I work in politics, you know, when you have an incumbent, if they haven't done something wrong or failed you in some way, you're basically firing them, and it feels uncomfortable to me when someone has put themselves forward and they say, I'd like to continue. You'd have to say, you know, if they missed meetings or if there was a reason that someone, you know, or you felt like they weren't representing you well, I think that's fair that someone else, you know, you can say, you know, give them a chance. But these are two people that are performing well in their roles, and, you know, I tend to support people who, I think, you know, we have a hard time getting people to do anything. It's look at how many, I've been at every public meeting trying to get someone to volunteer to be on the library commission, and it's like, it's difficult. So when somebody's doing a good job and they want to continue, I want to reward them for that. That's
And I'm
just how I
fine. We
feel.
can go with this, and I'm just trying to, for people that keep trying to get on committees and they can't because there's people that have been there for years. It is hard on the other side to get new voices in too, which is another way to look at this. You know, so there's both sides of that, and I understand about, like, we don't want to be firing someone, but there's, you know, how are we supporting people that actually are trying to step up, but, you know, there's not room to go in. Yes.
I suppose, Madam Mayor, if we knew, you know, like which one, it's like a Sophie's Choice kind of situation, you know, like Susan or Jan, you know, and if we don't have a clear person that we feel should be replaced at this time, that they've been there, you know, this for, you know, 87 years or something in Congress kind of thing, but this is not the case.
Right, and so I was accepting your recommendation, and I was just giving, as I always do, the other side of the story.
And I feel bad.
Yeah. Okay.
My only question, I don't have the answer, and that's why I'm asking it, but if the current committee is working well, then certainly what Councilwoman Lowe has said, that these are experienced. If there was dysfunction or they weren't getting something done, then certainly there could be more justification for a new voice.
All right. Okay, so we will go with Susan Harvey from Cotati and Janice Cater-Thompson from Petaluma. And now, last but not least.
Mayor, on that
yes.
one, it looks like there's a primary and an alternate. So based on this conversation, I would think if that question comes up, you just want to keep the same structure. Whoever's in the primary and whoever's in the alternate, if you're recommending the same.
Yes,
So
yes.
just wanna
Thank you, Sarah.
clarify that.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Okay, and then moving on to Sonoma County Agriculture Preservation and Open Space Districts Citizens Advisory Committee. I am recommending that we go with John Shribs from Petaluma and Marjorie Morgenstern from Cloverdale. And there are other members of Petaluma that this would put, if we took Karen now, who I think is also very good, there would be 4 people from Petaluma on this. And I did take a look as best I could at Marjorie Morgenstern and kind of her history and, you know, what she's doing in Cloverdale. And so that was the reason. And I felt as if it was a good, for agriculture preservation, once again, so Cloverdale is, yes, on the corridor, but it's kind of at the very far end of the corridor, and someone, Petaluma, that is right in the midst of the corridor. And comments on this, I'm happy to take comments on this.
There are 2 people from Petaluma currently.
Yeah.
I would just say that council member now from Petaluma has been a farmer. Her Peterson farm is her family farm, and I think that she has background as far as agriculture is concerned. I'm not as familiar with Ms. Morgenstern and her background, but I think there are 2 Petaluma people on there now, so I'm not as, it doesn't bother me as much to get the extra someone from Cloverdale when there are 2 Petaluma people replacing with 2 Petaluma people, and that I know that Karen now is, has been involved in agriculture. That being said, I'm not pushing that. I'm just saying that I'm just trying to give a little background of what I know. The other thing I would suggest is that in all of these, that last time we didn't do this, but I would give, if one of the people we recommend does not make it to the next round or something or other, I would certainly support both Karen and Stephen Zollman, for example, if, because last time you were kind of stuck.
We're gonna get to that.
Oh, we're gonna get to that, okay.
So you're recommending then, instead of John and Marjorie, Marjorie and Karen, is that
No,
what you recommend?
John and Karen.
John
John
and
is currently, this is again, someone who's currently on there, asking to remain. And then Kevin
Yeah.
McConnell, who is the mayor of Petaluma, he is expiring and not running again. So that's why I'm saying there were 2 Petaluma people on there, so it doesn't bother me as much to put 2 Petaluma people.
And then there'd be a
because
3rd Petaluma person, because there's another Petaluma person on there as well too. Just Alex is the other Petaluma person that is on there. So, yes.
Last time we mentioned, and Alex did Carly last time applying.
He got on it.
Yeah, he's on that.
Yeah.
That is another.
Petaluma person.
Okay.
Yeah, so there would be 3.
If any from other city or.
No, we
No.
have 3. John Shribs from Petaluma, Marjorie Morgenstern from Cloverdale, and Karen now from Petaluma. So, other comments? All right. So it's the question of the 2 Petaluma or the 3. I think of it as the 3 Petaluma, right? Because there is already someone on, and I know Kevin's dropping off, and Cloverdale. I did get the sense from Marjorie that she brings kind of a fresh voice in Cloverdale. That's my sense and understanding, but I could be wrong. Yes.
Just real simple. I think that there's a lot of ag space in Sonoma County. And if there's already a sound voice in the Petaluma area that I know they speak for their ag, I mean, they can't help but be regional, but I'm sure they look beyond. So I think it would be wise to go ahead and bring in Cloverdale, just from a geographic standpoint, that it's they too have open space, and they sure would probably like to protect it. So I would strongly support that we bring a new voice in.
Okay, so we're going to go with John and Marjorie, because John is already still on it, and so he can maintain his position. All right?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to review this quickly. Measure Age Oversight Committee, we are going with Jeff Okrepecki and Sandra Lowe. For the North Bay Division LOCC Executive Board, we are going to be going with Susan Harvey and Janice Cater-Thompson. That's Cotati and Petaluma. And just to go back, the first was Jeff Okrepecki is from Santa Rosa, Sandra Lowe's from Sonoma, as we all know and are happy with. And then last but not least, Sonoma County Agriculture Preservation and Open Space District Citizen Advisory Committee. We're going to be going with John Shribs and Marjorie Morgenstern. That's the slate that I am proposing. Do I have a motion? Oh, one more. I have one more. Oh, sorry. Public comment. Thank you. It's not a requirement.
That's okay. I'm going to take my 2 minutes. I want to say 2 things. I always, where's the public? And I always stay because of the theory, if the tree falls in the forest and there's no one there, it doesn't make any noise. But there's a connection. You'll have to work on it. And secondly, now I know why they left. This has been riveting.
This was so much fun. See, you don't know. We enjoy things that people don't really understand why we enjoy them. Okay, but it is always fun. So, okay, so do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'm sorry, before you make the motion, do you want to talk about, include in the motion?
Oh, yes,
the
that's right.
direction
I'm sorry.
on
Okay,
voting?
thank you very much. It says it's in big, it's not red letters, but big letters. So I'm also asking the council to give me game day decision authority. So if something happens like happened last time where 2 people drop out and they happen to be the people that we selected, that I can move ahead and make another decision. And from this conversation, I understand where people stand.
And that's why, honestly, I brought up the comment regarding Karen, because if one of these guys doesn't go forward, I mean, she's a good topic. But I will say that on this topic, I had a conversation with Gerard Judici, who is the chair of these mayors and council members, regarding that last vote. And what happened was several people dropped out, and you'll find this very riveting, Robert, that that there were so many that had dropped out. It really had affected not just what people had decided in their council, but other people who may have put their hat in the ring and didn't because they thought somebody else had. Yeah. And so I spoke to him about this and said, in the event that this happens again, I think it would be wise, unless you're worried about a quorum situation that has to be there and you've got to have people, to repost it and allow people who perhaps wouldn't have come forward had they known, this other person dropped out. So we had a few exchanges on this, and I said, since I've stirred the pot, I'm willing to help fix it if you need me to do something. And he thought there needed to be a bylaw amendment, then found out, no, we didn't. He could just do that as a chair. So I'm just sharing that because I just didn't think that was fair to people who, as you can see, is, very competitive. And someone said, if I dropped out, and then John said, well, if I'd have known Sandra's dropping out, I'd have come in there and I'd done it, so that you don't want to have that happen. So hopefully we fix that.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lowe. We appreciate all of those things that go on behind the scenes. So, all right, so do I have a motion? I think I asked for that before, right? Yeah, we're almost there. Would anybody like to move to accept?
I moved.
Okay,
yeah, because you already, and then itemized that, one by one. And I moved to give out the mayor rivers and the direction you just mentioned, and also give you an authority in case of what? How to wording that?
It's just game day authority.
Game day authority.
Yeah,
okay.
Things. The field changes, and we have to be thinking about who else to put out in the game field. That's from someone that does not know anything about football. Basketball, maybe, yes. All right. Okay, so now, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, and so since there is no need for a second public comment, I now call this meeting to be adjourned.
Oh, thank you.